Hello. Welcome to the Annex Artist Chat. We are here at the Annex in New London, Connecticut, 140 State Street. We are a collective of artists and we run a retail shop. We've got art, accessories, jewelry, apparel, so many goodies here. Also, every 6 to 8 weeks, we have an art show. So today, we are super stoked to talk to Jaylynn Claudio, who is from New London. And she is our second participant in the Growing Artist Project here at the Annex, which is a super awesome opportunity that we got through ARPA and the Cultural Coalition and probably some more people that I'm forgetting, but we basically, wrote out a grant for what we do, which is the Growing Artist Project. Basically, we take on an artist and we work with them one-on-one. We help them develop a show here at the Annex, meaning curated, framing, merchandising, getting stickers printed, getting artwork framed, getting totes, all different sorts of things, working with them, figuring out what they want, and kind of working along through the process of curating a show and having a solo exhibit as Jaylynn's having. She Shines, She Sparkles is the name of the show, which is taking place January 25th. On Saturday at about 6 o'clock, we'll be kicking it off. The show will be on display until about like March 3rd, March 1st-ish, that area. But definitely come by and check us out. Let's get to know Jaylynn a little bit, though. I'm super excited to have you here because I got to say, when I think of you, I think of a Disney princess and a fairy godmother combine in one thing. It's like everything warm and wonderful that could be and exist about a person, you like exude that energy. So I just want you to know that it's every time I talk to you, I'm always like, is this person real?
Stop it.
And you're super talented artist. So go ahead and why don't you give us your little spiel about yourself? What kind of art do you do? Where are you from?
Hello. My name is Jaylynn, obviously, and I am from New London, born and raised, proudly so, and I love creating illustrations, watercolor, gouache, digitally with Procreate and Photoshop as well.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah. And let's see, I'm trying to think when we met was maybe a year ago, maybe less than a year ago, right?
I think around a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was through Jose, right?
It was through Jose, but I've also frequently visited the Annex.
Yep.
And just really shopped around, but I didn't get to know you fully until I connected with Jose and connected you guys.
Yeah. And I got to say, though, you immediately, presented yourself as an artist and as a budding one who's trying to kind of come up and do things. Mm-hmm. You started holding events at the Golden Owl, the artist meetups. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the artist meetups, I kind of just developed because I was in communications with a bunch of artists, just talking about art. We're just talking about it and just kind of embracing and showing so much love for the arts and creating and movies and shows. And one day I just looked at them and I was just like, are you interested in like maybe having like some type of like art meeting or something where we can talk about art and make art while we're just sitting and chatting? And they agreed, and I was just like, okay, let me think about it some more. And at that point, I was just like, yeah, let's get this art meet rolling. So I started making flyers for it. I was like in collaborations with the Golden Owl. They kind of motivated me to actually push myself as an artist, and not just as an artist, but as like
a curator.
A curator.
Right? Yeah, organizer.
Yeah. And so that's when it all started. And I've just been having artists come to these meets every like third Friday of every month. And everyone just brings in so much talent and so much work and just works on their things, talks about art, laughs, has a good time. And it's been a lot of fun. I did it for like, I think like 6 months already, 6 or 7 months. So I was just like,
And
this
it's
is
grown,
insane.
right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, started off with what, like maybe like 10 people the
Mhm.
first one, and then now it feels like you've got all the rooms are full.
Yeah, it was actually very, like, overwhelming, I guess, last month because it was the first time where I've had artists come in and out of the meets because they are free to come in at any time and leave at any time to, everyone has lives, so but it's really cool because it's just, like, I've had them all coming in and out. I have to rearrange the tables,
Yeah.
rearrange the seating so then everyone can fit and be able to, like, share this space and feel connected with one another, so
Yeah, and I think it's a really, a massive tribute to the community to be able to offer a space where it's like, hey, do you want just to get second eyes on something you're
yeah.
working on? Do you want somebody to actually be like, hey, I think maybe you should go in the like, do you want direction? Or
Yeah.
as you said, do you want to just be and feel the energy of other artists in the
Mhm.
same space, create together and just kind of see what happens and
Yeah.
not, no pressure. There's no deadlines. There's no like actual like,
Yeah.
expectation. It's just come be an artist together with me.
Mhm. Yeah, that was my main
That's
goal.
that's a beautiful thing.
That's exactly what I wanted. I just wanted everyone to feel like they have their own art safety space and that, they aren't alone in feeling like they aren't motivated to do work.
Yeah.
And this was just a way to find motivation to do work. And, I do this all for them. I don't even do it for myself. Like, I can't even just sit down and make my
Right.
own pieces of work, like, when I'm there, because I just want to go in rotation and see what everyone's working on.
Yeah.
If they need any advice or if they want help with anything, if they want a whole group thing, then we'll have a whole group thing. Um,
So that role kind of came naturally to you though, right? Like kind of being in that position of sort of organizing and almost, I mean, mentoring really,
yeah.
which is interesting because I know it's like you're so young, but at the same time, you've already seen yourself in that role, which I think for us, I know for myself and Krista, it was like super obvious that like you were already there. So you were a very much of an obvious choice when it came to the Growing Artist Project, just because one of the things was like, I know what it's like, and as does Krista too, to give to others, but like given the opportunity to also just focus on your own work, right?
Yeah.
And it's like that's something we talked about. It was like, do you want to have this be a group show or a solo show? And I think we were all kind of like solo show. Like this is a good opportunity for you to just kind of show who you are off because you do already out the gate. You like come out at the gate doing so much for the community, which is I know a lot of people appreciate and see you as for sure like a shining star. She shines, she sparkles. How about we talk a little bit about your actual art history, Jaylynn's art history? Do you remember how young you were when you started? And
I don't necessarily remember. The details that my parents would say are when I was little, I would do smiley faces, and my dad would say, "That is too perfect of a smiley face for a little girl like you." And I could do a stick figure, and it wouldn't look as good at the smiley face. So I remember him vividly telling me that every time he brings up any of my recent work or anything. I've been doing it all my life. I have surrounded myself with creatives since I was little. I have family that they all do like crafts or music or some form of art in any way. So I feel like it was just natural. Um, and then when I got around middle school, it started to become more prominent, my love for art. I started to sketch more. My mom and my dad started to get me sketchbooks and pencils. They got me colored pencils, markers. They just really wanted to motivate that and saw that it was an actual hobby for me. So I was like, okay, like let's keep going with this. So I kept going and I would draw like things that inspired me. So like at the time anime, at the time a lot of animated films in general or like little graphic novels. And then when I got to high school, it kind of got a little bit more serious because I still continued making art. And I didn't really take any art classes, actually.
No?
I just went to after school art club most of the time, and that's where I worked on all of my art. And if it wasn't after school, it was at home. So that grew, that developed, and I decided, I was like, I could go to school for art. That'd be really cool. And like, I was back and forth on it, but I had my high school art teacher really push me and be like, what if we look at this school real quick? And I went to Lime Academy for my first college. And I was like, we'll see. And I saw them. They had like a little presentation. And I remember looking at her and being like, kind of like this school. So
this feels right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really where everything kind of began and then shifted in a way that I don't think I expected.
Yeah. So what was Lime Academy for you?
It was a beautiful time.
Yeah.
It was such a pivotal pivotal part of my life. It definitely changed who I was at the time as an artist. Because I was just I looked at everything in such a small setting.
Yeah.
And I was able to broaden it with everything that I learned. Because I learned that like specific methods and skills that I didn't think was important to me back then until now, I guess. And I grew so much as an artist over there, and I made some of my first art friends there.
Yeah. And was that your first experience? I know you said you were in art club, but like, was that your first experience really just being like around artists full time?
Yeah, that was my first experience like ever to be around like artists that are at the same level as me, I would say, or, you know, above me. And it was very incredibly like inspiring.
Yeah. I was just going to say, where do you think you take your inspiration? Like, what do you think is there certain artists that inspire you, or is there certain parts of the world that inspire you? Like, what is your kind of like, what feeds you?
I feel like it's mostly been artists that I've been surrounded by, like, my whole life. Like, it's really just been family who create, and really the artist friends that I've made that inspired me primarily to continue making art and do new things. Because like to say like one artist that like genuinely inspired me, like outside of who I know, it's like I don't have one that I can say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just like the people that I have been around,
Your
I
peers.
can say, yes, my peers, my family, like whoever creates and around me have inspired me as an artist. So
yeah, and sometimes that's more influential just because it's like the actual action of watching it happen and watching somebody else do it and feeling what they feel, you know, sort of like in context of like, oh, they're creating something that this is the outcome, and then you being able to do that and kind of go through your journey, you know, is really special and unique. And and I know like as far as specifically what you draw and a lot of it is, you know, self-reflective and natural and nature. And is there anything like how do you think your art defines you? Like, do you feel defined by like the actual, like some of your pictures are very much like either like a version of your face or like, but like in some other world or something. Like how does it kind of like describe like how does that come out for you?
It's just, I do take a lot of aspects of my life and turn it into these illustrations. I guess they just kind of show who I am in my head, you know. like a lot of like of me is just, everything is just so fantastical, whimsical, which is one of my favorite words. And I use a lot of different like symbols within nature and just the stuff that I am surrounded by on a daily as like just like, hey, like there's a specific meaning and attachment to these specific things and a specific feeling that you get from seeing their facial expressions in a lot of them, or just like the way I handle things compositionally as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, kind of bringing it to light in that way,
mm-hmm.
bringing it out of you. And you grew up in New London, born and raised, and you had a great childhood. It sounds like things were okay, you know, like art was there for you throughout it.
Art was there for me. I had a good childhood, but like generally it was I've had hardships.
Yeah.
You know, as anyone, and those hardships kind of defined more of my artwork, I would say, than anything. But I liked combining those with a lot of my good in my childhood because it's just kind of telling a full, broad story without anyone having to really interpret it in one way. They can interpret it in whatever way they want.
Well, it's thought-provoking, right? Mm-hmm. It's like there's more there for you, but it's almost like, you know, sometimes I feel like that can bring out that whimsical nature because it's like that safe space of like, oh, this is what I'm growing. But in spite of whatever the chaos is around me, right? It's like, this is where I want it to grow and I want it to be. It's like, I want to be in this fantasy. I want not like run away, but almost like depict like what you're trying to put out there, right? It's like, that's how I feel when I look at a lot of your pictures. I feel like it's like there's some entrapment sometimes, but definitely it's like creating this fantasy. It's like, yes, but I'm going to be, I'm choosing this positivity and these natural forms. You know what I mean? I for sure get that. And I'm thinking of the piece that was over here. That piece specifically, like that was a big one. I was like, whoa, okay, I see a bit in there streaming out, and the plant head. Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit more specifically about what we're going to see at the show? She shines, she sparkles. What do we got going on?
A lot of myself and where I am at currently, I would say, in my mental space. And I kind of wanted to just emphasize, just like, as myself, I feel like I am at a time in my life where I'm shining and I'm sparkling. I made my, big step of moving on my own in June.
That's right. Yeah. You just got your own place.
I did. It's a good time. I'm very happy with it. And a lot to navigate. So that's kind of where a lot of my pieces come from. It's just like a reflection of how I'm navigating all that and what objects are kind of tangible and emotionally attached at my home, and not even just my home, like the places that I hang out at and around daily kind of are reflected in a lot of those pieces. And
here in downtown New London. And that's a good sort of segue to like, what has New London meant for you?
New London has just been such a just big comfort, I would say. It's really shaped me so far as a woman in her early 20s and still trying to figure out her life and what she wants to do for herself and as an artist. New London has been an area that really built a community over the last couple of years, and it surprised me because like around COVID there was like nothing. It didn't feel like there was anything.
There wasn't
left.
a lot of businesses downtown, right?
No, absolutely not. Like I had to stick around to like one or two businesses and then go home. And now I feel like I can bounce around New London and be able to talk to all these businesses and hang out and talk to them and get to know
wash.
Go to the wash, go to Muddy's, go to all the galleries like the Annex, go over to the Golden Owl, like go to Flavors of Life.
Right.
Like, I love seeing everyone and talking to them because everyone has such a specific light and has the same motivation as I do.
Yeah.
And it's nice. It's just so welcoming now, and I'm so grateful for it because it's just brought so much positive light. in
I
my
think
life.
so. And it's a give and take, honestly, because I feel like, just as much as, the community has sort of started showing up in the last couple of years as far as like the town being supportive and everybody being on board to sort of move the arts forward in New London. You're so ready and willing to take on leadership roles, to be the artist involved. I've seen you come to New London Arts Council meetings, which is, really awesome to see that also it's, you're younger, you're in your 20s, right? So it's like to see younger guys and girls and everybody trying to sort of like get involved and like really wanting to like be involved and like make a difference, right? So it's not just like, oh yeah, this is happening. It's like, no, this is happening, but everybody from all over the board is involved. Right. It's like, it's everyone. It's like when you go to those meetings, or I'm sure at the owl, the picture they posted with like everybody sitting outside was so funny, because to me it was like just one of those like quintessential paintings of like, you've got the photographer, you've got the musician, you've got the artist, you've got the people talking, it's like you have all of those aspects, which are super important, I feel like, in an art community, to have just the diversity of age and background and artistry, right? It's like we all, as you mentioned, all of these businesses, even though there's multiple coffee shops, so there's multiple retail spots, we all have something different that we bring.
Oh, 100%.
Right? So it's really nice to be a part of the movement that we're part of. So
I know. It's been such a beautiful journey. I'm so proud of where we're at in New London, because it wasn't easy. And I'm just grateful that we all wanted to continue this. That we wanted to
move forward. And what about future? Like, where do you see yourself maybe like in a year, 2 years, 5 years down the road? Like, do you have any sort of like grandiose goals that you've kind of like starting to plot out? Like, what's your world takeover?
I do. This is like something that I continue to manifest in myself and whoever I have mentioned like to other people about. But basically, one day I do want to have my own gallery space that involves like public studios, because I want people to be able to work in their own little space when if they don't have anything like that in their own homes, or I just want to make it easier on other artists. And I think it would just be a fun idea to do.
Yeah.
And a little,
I know that feeling.
Sorry. I was going to say, and a little art store space too.
Yeah. It's important, I think, to have those ideas and goals, even though like it might feel like kind of crazy. But like saying it out loud and doing that 100%. When I moved back here and I was like 22 years old, like I told everybody like, I want a shop, I want to have a shop, I want to have a shop. And I ended up, having one, by the time I was like 24 in this area for a little bit. And it was awesome because it was very similar to now in the experience of being around artists and having the community. And I feel like that's just number one. It's like if you if you will it and you want it, it'll totally present itself to you, It's, and I think you'd be great at it for sure. So
and I think businesses like yours are really what makes me feel like it is attainable. Like, if I would be honest, like it's like I feel like I've seen you guys grow as a business. I've seen you move from one location to another and really build our community in your own way. And I've seen it through the owl, and it's like one small thing, and it just slowly grows.
Absolutely,
and it takes a couple of years to really build what you want, and especially if you have all the support coming your way, even better. And so to me, it's attainable.
Absolutely.
And
you'll be great at it.
Thank you.
Now, do you feel like you've, like, looking back, do you feel like there's any time when you might have needed like an extra push or any sort of advice? I guess what we're looking for is like, as you are young, there is also other artists that are starting out of all different ages that are, might kind of like hesitate to do what they do. And I'm sure you run into this at the artist meets of kind of like, knowing how to boost people up. But is there any advice that you'd want to give anybody who's kind of like, I don't know,
I'd say it's as simple of just jumping in. Just jump into it. No matter if you feel like you're going to be defeated, it's fine to feel defeated because that's just how it is in life. We're always going to endlessly get pushed and pushed and pushed until we are finally able to get out of that. There's never going to be a day that you're not going to face any obstacles. You just have to keep pushing through them and keep growing and keep learning and don't be scared to is really my main thing.
Yeah, that's great. So you mentioned you went to Lime Academy Art School. I'm sure there's people out there that are thinking about it. Some people think, oh, I'll just go to community college or I'll go to this college and this. What do you say to somebody who's like hesitant about it or kind of like on the fence of like, should I do it? Should you go down that road?
I feel like for the most part, you don't necessarily need to go to college for the arts. You only go if you really want to have the experience to be surrounded by other artists and being disciplined in a very specific format. I enjoyed it at the time that I went, but unfortunately, around the time that I was there, it shut down. So I was only there for 1 year, and it was a good time.
Right.
And I cherished the whole 1 year experience, all the classes, all the professors, all the activities that we're able to do. And then I went to university after. So I went to the University of New Haven, and I still majored in illustration. And it was a different landscape. It was all mostly digital. I got lucky that I had my old illustration professor there who does focus on traditional work. So I was really grateful for that. And I was able to grow from that journey. It was not easy. I did not enjoy actually university life. So I guess it depends on the person and depends on if they really want to go through to college, but they don't necessarily need to. They can simply jump into looking at galleries, looking for mentors, be an apprentice somewhere.
Well, you make a good
networking.
point. It's like if you kind of know your concentration and you want to learn everything about it, it's a good option because it's like, hey, and I think for artists too that aren't sure of which way, it might be a good option. Yeah. But yeah, ultimately school, you're only going to get what you put in, right? So it's pretty like much. Ultimately if you're ready to continue that journey or to go down that journey, just be ready to give it your all and take in your all. Because I know people have mixed experiences when it comes to art school, for sure. Yeah. I've heard a lot of that. But ultimately, I think, you get what you put in and you kind of have to, again, your advice was great. You got to push through it. And then if it's not for you, then, turn and pivot and make a different decision. Right.
Yeah. That's kind of where my life ended up going. Like I didn't know what type of art I wanted to do. Like I've always focused on illustration and stuff, but my life pivoted into making sign work, into designing little logos for wooden tops, to making graphic bookmarks and graphic design. You have to, as an artist, I feel like you always should have the freedom to venture out in whatever way you can, because solely focusing in one way won't get you to where you feel like you want to be.
Yeah, process of elimination, right? If you don't try, you won't know.
Yeah. I try as much mediums as I can, basically. I love trying out ceramics and just craftier stuff or calligraphy. Just because it's just nice to learn and at least keep in the back of my head, because if I'm not going to use that skill now, it doesn't mean I won't use it later.
Right. That's right. You were doing pottery over at Espressiones.
Yeah, it was. It's a good
Which
time.
is a fantastic gallery and another major component to the community. It's awesome. I mean, you really, one of the things that's so admirable about you is you really have, kind of gone in every little direction and gotten to know every corner of the community, which is beautiful, because it is hard as like a business to have time to like go and talk to everybody else and to have those experiences. So it does feel like you're kind of this link between all of us. And a big part of, the artists in this community, they're the link that brings the community together and pushing forward and doing, events together. And, it is a really special thing. So we thank you. And we're so proud of you and hope that we can be, a part of your journey for the long run. And we're excited to see your work up on January 25th. And I think the greatest part about, us working with you and the relationship that we have with our artists is it's an open door. So this is really like, hey, you tell us what you want to do and we'll help you in any way we can. So thank you, Jaylynn.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for watching, and come see us January 25th. We are open Thursday through Sundays, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 12 to 7 p.m., Sundays, 12 to 5. That's 140 State Street.